Big Poppy here. Alright, for the most part we should be able to wrap this up on this project of building a primer feed, primer alarm, and a round counter in this project. And we'll come back a little bit later after I do some other videos. And there's one more feature that I want to, it's going to work with everything that we've already did. Today I want to wrap up the wiring and the installation of the primer feed itself. This particular project is going on a Lee Loadmaster. As you already know, I have 17 presses here, and all my presses have them except for 2 of them. So we'll go through and finish up the wiring, and you'll be able to put this in operation, and I think you'll be happy with it. So let me get a closer look at this for you so you can see what I'm doing. Alright, let's start off where we did last time. And so the first thing is like I showed you, I want you to take your sensor for your round counter, and either run it through the side if you decided to put a hole through the side, or if you're going to go through the back, go ahead and put that through if you would. And as that counter comes through the inside of your box, you're going to have 3 wires on it. You're going to have a brown wire, you're going to have a blue wire, and you're going to have a brown or a black wire. So you're going to have brown, black, and blue. Okay? Coming out. Alright, now you're going to wire this sensor. Your brown one off your sensor goes into the box, and it goes on to the positive buzz bar. And again, that'll be the top right here. Okay, so that'll be brown. Your blue one coming off your counter goes to your negative side of your buzz bar, which will be the bottom. Okay, your last wire, which is black, your black wire is going to hook to the blue wire of your counter. Okay? So here's the blue coming in. Here's the blue on the back side of the counter. Put those together. Okay? And since they're little smaller wires here, I usually put a zip tie and put them all together. Make it nice and tight there. Okay, so that takes care of your sensor. Now, coming off the back of your counter, you have, which you've already hooked up the blue because it goes to your sensor. Alright, your black wire goes to your negative on your buzz bar, the bottom. Okay. Your red goes to the other terminal on the back of your switch. And now it's the second switch closest to your on and off switch. Okay? Alright. So, just so we've got this correct, let's go through one more time. So, your sensor coming into your box, your blue goes to blue, and the blue goes to the negative buzz bar. Your brown coming out of your sensor wire is going into the positive side on your buzz bar. Okay, you've already hooked the blue coming in from your sensor goes hooked up to the blue coming off the back side of your counter. Okay, your black off the back of your counter is coming into your ground on the bottom of the buzz bar. Your red wire goes to the other terminal on your switch, and that switch is the closest one to your on and off. Okay, on the other side of that switch that runs your counter, the other one is in the middle, and your middle one comes into your box and goes to your positive side. Okay? So at this point, these wires are hooked up for your sensor. These wires are hooked up for your primer feed. Okay? Now the next thing, which is on your panel, remember it was the button closest to your fuse. Okay? And I've got mine green here. Alright. And off the back of that switch, as you can see, mine is color-coded black and white. So one switch coming off the back of that switch is, put one of these connectors for two wires where you crimp it together. Okay. Alright, now, one thing I forgot is take the two wires that you soldered to your vibrator here and put some that shrink tubing on it so you make it stiff here. Take these two wires, run them into the back of your unit if you're going from the back. If you're going in from the side, go ahead and do that. Alright, now as those two wires come into the back, one of those black and white wires goes hooked to the positive side of the buzz bar. Okay? Alright. Now, on the other one, it is getting hooked with that union where you're putting the two wires together is your other wire on your push button for your primer feed. Okay? So you got black and white. One goes to the positive side. The other side goes to your switch. Okay? Alright. As a matter of fact, let me rephrase that. That is not correct. You're going to come off the back of your switch and one wire goes to your ground and the other wire gets hooked to the other black that's coming into the back of the unit. And as the second wire comes in to the back of the unit, it goes to the positive side. So you got one switch, one terminal on the back of your switch for your primer feed going to your negative. Your other wire goes out, comes about, goes up to it. It's hooked together. The second wire comes through your box and goes to your positive. Okay, so you're making a loop. Hope this ain't confusing. Alright. Alright, so here's what the wild mess of wires looks like. Okay. And like I said, you'll have to adjust on when you come and you start putting these wires back in and pull them out, because you're not going to need all that in here. So pull it out and you can always take some slack out later. Alright. Now, and let me unhook these, because I don't think I showed you this. Okay, remember before when we started I had you take this, it's a yellow wire, orange and red, and I had you tape it off the back side. Okay, now it's time to use it. So what I want you to do now is I want you to take those wires, I'm going to take this off here, I want you to take these wires and I want you to go ahead and stick those through this. Either to the side how you chose to do it, or if you're going to run them through the back like what I'm doing. You got to finesse them in there. Alright. So now what I want you to do is I want you to take that piece of tape off of it, and you're going to have your bar coming in with your little block here. You're going to take the two yellows, like I showed you, you're going to twist them together, and it looks like a fitting just like this connector. You're going to push the wires in there. So you're going to push the two yellow in there, and again you can use something if you want to crimp it down, because you're going to have to crimp it down so it'll stay in the wire there. And I'm going to show you an example of how you do that. And I'm going to do a single here, because the other two are singles. Go ahead and strip your wire away. Okay, so you get your wire stripped away, probably about, I don't know, a little more than 1/4 of an inch. Got your little connector here. You're going to stick it on it. You're going to stick it through. And again, all I'm doing is just taking a pair of pliers like this, and I'm putting them in the 1.4, and I'm just pinching that together. And what that does is keeps that on there nice and tight. You'll notice I got a little wire sticking out the end of it. That doesn't matter, because you're going to come back and cut it off anyway to make it fit. And it'll look just like that. Alright? So what I want you to do is to take this block, and it's color coded because we already did it that way. Now if you had different wires coming off in your colors, just make sure you match them up. So the yellow goes into the yellow side of it, of the terminal. Take and tighten that up. And then the center one is your orange. And I'm going to show you up close here in just a minute. So take that orange one and stick it in there and tighten it up. Take the red one, same thing. Stick it in there, tighten it up. Alright. Alright, before we go any farther, I want to go ahead, and it's about that time to go ahead and start taking off all the tape that we put on there to make sure that it didn't get all scratched up. Part of this is real fun to do too, trying to get it out and around with your switches and everything here. So bear with me. And I'm going to see and what you might need to do is take a little knife, a utility knife thing, and pull that off. Another thing you could do too is just take your switches off too. Some of them you won't be able to because you've soldered it, but I'll give you the general idea here. And what I'd like to do, if I can, is I'm going to go ahead and pop this counter forward so I can peel that off. It's a pain in the butt taking the tape off, but I'll tell you what, when you spend that much time building this, you sure in the hell don't want it all scratched up. At least I don't. Supposed to get some snow tomorrow. Getting ready to go get groceries and stuff for the Super Bowl. Bunch of snacks and all that good stuff. I don't think we're supposed to have a lot of accumulation, maybe a couple inches, but the temperature is supposed to start dropping. I've got so many videos that I want to do, so I'm glad I'm about ready to wrap this up. I know a lot of my subscribers don't care about making one of these units, but since there was enough of you that asked, glad to do it. Like I told you, I needed one more anyway. Throw some of the nuts and stuff on the floor. I don't use the blue very much except for on the front of the counter because it falls off. The green's a little bit more aggressive. We're about there. Alright, let's start putting some of this back in place. There's our button for our counter. And we tighten up the light that says when the unit's on. Let me tighten that up. Okay, and then the button for the primer feed, which is right next to your fuse. And remember, your fuses are them small fuses. They're not the big ones that you see that are in automobiles. They're real small, half the length. And if you go back to that first video, I tell you exactly what fuses they are. And you want to get nothing larger than a 3. The whole unit's like 1.5, so as long as it's 3 and under, you're good to go. Okay, let me tighten this. The only thing that's really bad is sometimes you have some of your wires will pull out if you didn't get them nice and tight going through this, or you have a wire that breaks. Okay, now let's take and push our on and on button back through and put our little dial ring here. Put on your little washer. And remember again, you're responsible for the whole project yourself. If you get a wire wrong, shorts out, blow fuses, any of that is your responsibility. You've sat here along me doing this, and if you have questions, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. Alright, so there's the front of the panel. And it is time to go ahead and start taking and putting all your wires inside the box. And one little thing is this between the sensor to your digital counter, since those are little wires there, I'm going to go ahead and put some tape around it just in case, so when I'm putting them in the box here I don't disconnect them, break the wires. Okay, so we're going to take all the wires, everything what we've done, and if you want to go and use wire ties and those kind of things to make it look a lot neater in there, go for it. A lot of times some of the folks that started making this, some of the things that they've run into is they forgot to push them through the hole on the side or to the back, and then they've had to go and disconnect their wires and poke them through. Not a big deal, but and then you're going to take and you're going to push all that down. And the one that's the hardest is the on and off. So if you can take your wires and keep them away from that area, that does help quite a bit. Going into your box, and what I want to do, it's got 4 screws that goes into that. So I'm going to go ahead and put these in. And hopefully when we got some more things to do here, hopefully this thing works. I haven't had any issues in the past, but you know, sometimes you have bad luck and you've broken a wire or something's not right, especially when you're doing a video. Like I said, I don't edit any of my videos. It is what it is. If I make mistakes, I'm human. Alright, so there's the box that we built for the project. And I want to go ahead at this point, and we are going to tear the tape off the side of the box. Make sure we're recording still. Alright, so we got all the tape off of it. Okay, so there's the unit. And out the back, you got your power cord hooked up. Remember, you just pushed it in like here. It's got the little end on it. Push it in there. Okay, here is the primer feed coming out of the back, just like what I showed you. It's got a little vibrator on the end of it. The other wire coming out of here, out of the back, is your sensor. Set it over there, that over there. Set your box. I'm going to go ahead for right now and I'm going to put it on its back. Okay, so your wires are coming out of the back for your sensor for your primer alarm. So now what you want to do is you've got your wires coming out that go to your primer alarm, and you got to take and hook it to the primer feed on your press, and hopefully I can talk over that furnace there, but I want to show you how to do this. Alright, I'm just using a I used one here, and what you're going to do is you're going to drill a hole. You're going to take your sensor, okay, you're going to take your sensor and you're going to put it on the side of it. You're going to drill a hole right here. I'm going to tell you exactly where to drill that hole and how big. Alright, so you're going to drill your hole, and you're going to take this, it'll be on the back side, and this is going to be right here. You want to be in the center straight down where you drill that hole. Okay? Alright. Okay, that hole, once you line it up, but I'm going to show you, you want to be, take a caliper, and this is showing, 1 second. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to take your caliper and put it at the back side of this right here, and I want you to measure over 1.250. So you're going to drill that at 1.50. Now, and that hole that you're going to drill there on the top needs to be exactly at 1.20 straight down. Okay? Alright, so you're going to drill that hole, and then what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to take this apart once you drill that hole. And the hole diameter, the minimum needs to be 3/32, and the max is 7/64. If you go smaller than the 3/32, it's not going to register and it's not going to work properly. If you go much higher than 7/64 on the bigness, the size of the hole, what happens is when your primers start feeding down this, they start bunching up and it starts jamming it all up. So you have to stay between those two dimensions, okay? And when you take this, then you're going to take this apart, and we're going to go ahead and do that because you're getting so far into this project and you don't want something real small interfering with going ahead and being able to use it. So take the screws out of the back. Alright, and you're going to take this piece, which you already know probably, take that off. Okay, then you're going to take this and you're going to push down, and you're going to, or push up here, and you're going to take this off. Okay, so you're going to take this all the way off. Alright. Now, what you're going to have to do, let's see, I got a little bit right here. Alright, you want to get something that's very fine, 320 and up. Okay, when you drill that hole through here, it's got where the plastics came up in the inside, and if you do not sand that and make it slick, the primers will not feed correctly. So you're just going to take a little bit of real fine sandpaper. The finest you can get is better. And what you want to do is take this and you're going to sand the inside of that. Okay? Next thing is you're going to come back, roughly sand the back of it. Okay? So you want this smoother than a baby's butt. Whatever you want to do and however you choose to do that. Okay? Alright. Now, same thing with this, but as you drill that hole, it's already got a slot on the top, so you're going to sit there and see where the hole was drilled, and you want to do the same thing here. Now don't do a lot on the top of it because it's going to show visually, but underneath the bottom side of this, do the same thing where you drill through, take a little bit of sandpaper and smooth that up. But like I said, smoother than a baby's butt. Alright, so then you're going to take and you're going to put this back together. So you got your little piece that goes here, and you're going to put your piece right here that slides where your primer goes forward. You're going to put this, push it down, and this little piece will snap where you need it. Okay, so your little feed here for your primer, going side to side, it's good shape, back in its place. You got a hole there. You're going to take this piece, you're going to put it back in. Remember the open here goes on your little post there. Take your little metal part there, push it down, and go ahead and reinstall both your screws. And you don't want it real tight, especially on the one that's got the O-ring and everything. Just butt it up, you know, snug. Don't over tighten it, because that's got to be able to slide when your primers are coming up. Okay, so when they come down, it's moving to the side. Alright, so now you've made this, you've got the hole where it needs to go. Now it's time to take the sensor. I think we did that in the very first video. You want to take your sensor, and it's going to be centered on that hole. Okay, now it looks just like that from a top view. Now the problem is, like I said, you got to do exactly what I told you as far as the distance from here to here, because if you start getting this farther down, it's not going, when your press is going up, remember it's got them little indentations on the side of your press that actually shakes the primer thing as it goes up. You don't want this hitting that. Okay, this is your sensor. Now the second thing you don't want, let me see if I can get a pointer here. The second thing is you want to make sure that this is below this here. Okay, make sure this is below. If it sticks too far this way, let me show you what happens. When you go to take and put your primer tray on, look, you can't get it on there. Okay, and let's say that you went a little too much instead of extreme. Same thing here, you can't get it on. Okay, so this has to be recessed a little below this here. Alright, and if you drilled it exactly where I told you, and depending if you actually put the sensor in this correctly, instead of being too far to the edge or too far up here, this should work out perfect for the location where that wire goes. Okay? Then next what you're going to do is you're going to take a wire tie. Okay? Alright, so you're going to wrap a wire tie around this, and you're going to cinch it up and tighten it up. Okay? Alright. And then let me show you that if you have that at the right location where I told you, look at that. It's below it. It doesn't interfere with your press. These wires fall down to the back side of it. Alright, so that's how we made that. Alright, so let's put that aside. Alright, so we're up to this point of the wires. I showed you where to drill the hole. I showed you how to put the wire tie on here. Take a little bit of heat shrink tubing and put about 1/4 of an inch or a 1/2 inch just right behind here and melt that. Okay, that's all hooked up. Now the next thing, what we want to do is there's different sizes out there. You can use